The cargo hauler screamed through the atmosphere like a wounded animal. Owen Fletcher gripped the controls with white knuckles as warning lights painted his face red in the darkness. Something had torn through his ship's engine during the jump, and now gravity was dragging him down toward an ice-covered moon he had never meant to visit. Metal shrieked. The ship hit frozen ground and skidded across the surface, carving a deep trench through snow and rock. When everything finally stopped moving, Owen sat in silence for a moment, checking if he was still alive. His ribs hurt. His head throbbed. But he could move. The cold hit him the moment he opened the hatch. It was the kind of cold that burned your lungs and froze your breath in the air. Two pale suns hung low on the horizon, and Owen knew they would set soon. He had maybe an hour of light left. His ship was dead. The main power core had cracked during the crash, leaking coolant across the snow. The emergency beacon blinked weakly, but its antenna had snapped off. No one would hear it. Owen pulled his emergency kit from storage and looked around at the frozen wasteland. Mountains of ice stretched in every direction. No buildings, no lights. Nothing but white and gray and cold. He needed shelter fast. The temperature was already dropping as the sun sank lower. Owen dragged metal panels from the wrecked cargo bay and propped them against a large boulder. It was not much, but it would block the wind. He gathered pieces of dried vegetation from under the snow and broke apart some wooden crates from his cargo. The chemical fire starters from his survival kit caught quickly, and soon he had a small flame going. The fire was weak, but it was something. Owen wrapped himself in his thermal blanket and ate half a ration bar, trying not to think about how long he might be stuck here. 3 days minimum before anyone noticed he was missing. Maybe longer. He added more fuel to the fire and watched the flames dance in the growing darkness. That was when he heard the sound. Something moved out there in the dark. Something that made a strange, clicking noise, almost like chattering teeth. Owen tensed and reached for the plasma cutter he had grabbed from the toolkit. It was not a weapon, but it was better than nothing. The clicking grew louder. Closer. Owen stared into the darkness beyond his firelight, trying to see what was coming. Then a shape appeared at the edge of the light, small, moving slowly, limping. Owen's breath caught in his throat. He knew what it was. Everyone in the galaxy knew what dragons looked like, even the babies. This one was tiny, maybe the size of a large cat, with scales that looked like frozen metal. Its wings dragged on the ground, and one of them had a torn membrane that leaked dark blood onto the snow. The creature was shaking so hard that Owen could see it from where he sat. The hatchling took another step forward and collapsed. It lay there in the snow, making weak chirping sounds, its scales covered in frost. Its eyes closed slowly, and its breathing became shallow. Owen should have stayed where he was. Dragons were dangerous. Everyone knew that. They were apex predators, capable of tearing through steel when fully grown. This was just a baby now, but it would not stay small forever. The smart thing was to let nature take its course, but Owen looked at the small creature dying in the snow, and he could not do it. He cursed under his breath and crawled out from under his shelter. The cold bit at him immediately. He grabbed the hatchling carefully, expecting it to fight or bite, but it barely moved. Its body was ice cold, much colder than it should be. Owen pulled the creature close to the fire and wrapped it in part of his thermal blanket. The hatchling's scales felt like touching frozen metal. Owen rubbed its limbs gently, trying to get warmth back into its body. He had no idea if this would work. He knew nothing about dragon biology. But he knew about hypothermia, and this creature was dying from the cold. The hatchling's eyes opened slightly. They were gold, like tiny suns, and they stared at Owen with an intelligence that made him uncomfortable. The creature made a soft sound, somewhere between a chirp and a whimper. Then it pressed itself against Owen's chest, seeking warmth. Owen sat there with a dragon hatchling in his arms, feeding the fire with one hand while holding a creature that could grow up to kill him. The logical part of his brain screamed that this was stupid. The rest of him just kept the creature warm. As the night grew darker and colder, the hatchling's breathing steadied. Its body temperature slowly rose. It was going to survive. Owen was not sure how he felt about that. He added more fuel to the fire and pulled the blanket tighter around both of them. The twin suns disappeared completely. Stars filled the sky above. Owen kept the fire burning and felt the small dragon's heartbeat against his ribs. Tomorrow would bring new problems. But tonight, they were both alive, and that would have to be enough. Asterisk frost covered everything when Owen opened his eyes. His breath came out in white clouds, and his fingers felt numb despite the thermal blanket. The fire had died down to glowing embers, and the first light of dawn painted the ice blue and purple, something warm pressed against his side. Owen looked down and found the dragon hatchling curled up next to him, its small body tucked under his arm. The creature's scales had changed color overnight. They were no longer the dull gray of frozen metal. Now they shimmered with hints of deep blue and silver. The hatchling's chest rose and fell with steady breaths. Owen moved carefully, trying not to wake it. He needed to check his ship again and see if he could get the beacon working properly. But the moment he shifted, the hatchling's eyes snapped open. Those gold eyes watched him with an intensity that seemed wrong for something so small. The creature chirped softly and tilted its head. Owen found himself talking to it without thinking. "Yeah, I know. I am surprised, too. We both made it through the night." The hatchling chirped again, a different sound this time. It almost sounded like a question. Owen rebuilt the fire while the creature watched his every movement. When the flames were strong again, he pulled out another ration bar. He was down to 4 left. Not good. The hatchling's stomach made a gurgling sound. Owen broke off a small piece of the ration bar and held it out. The creature sniffed it carefully, then took it with surprising gentleness. It chewed slowly, watching Owen the whole time. "You are welcome," Owen said. He ate his own portion and studied the hatchling in the daylight. One of its back legs was swollen, probably twisted during whatever had separated it from its family. The torn wing needed attention too, or it might never heal properly. Owen dug through his medical kit and found bandages and antiseptic spray. He had no idea if human medicine would work on dragons, but infection was infection. He moved slowly, letting the hatchling see everything he was doing. When he touched the injured leg, the creature flinched but did not pull away. "This might sting," Owen warned. He sprayed the antiseptic on the wing tier. The hatchling hissed and its small claws dug into the ground, but it held still. Owen worked quickly, cleaning the wound and wrapping the leg in a makeshift splint using metal strips from his ship and medical tape. When he finished, the hatchling looked at its bandaged leg and chirped. It almost sounded like thanks. Owen shook his head. He was starting to hear things. His stomach reminded him that 1 ration bar was not enough. Owen had set some simple snares the night before, using wire from the ship. He needed to check them. When he stood up, the hatchling struggled to its feet too, balancing awkwardly on 3 legs. "You should stay here by the fire," Owen said. The creature ignored him and limped after him into the snow. They made a strange pair, trudging through the frozen landscape. Owen checked the first 2 snares and found nothing. The third one had caught something, a small furred creature about the size of a rabbit. It was already frozen solid. Owen reset the snare and carried the animal back to camp. He cleaned and cooked the meat over the fire. The smell made his mouth water. The hatchling watched with intense focus, and Owen realized it was probably starving. He had no idea what dragons ate, but meat seemed like a safe bet. Owen cut the cooked meat into pieces. He kept half for himself and offered the rest to the hatchling. The creature snatched it up and ate with desperate hunger. Making happy chirping sounds between bites, they ate in companionable silence. When the food was gone, Owen leaned back and stared at the sky. The twin suns were higher now, but they gave off weak light and almost no warmth. This moon was a terrible place to be stranded. The hatchling stood up suddenly, balancing on its good legs. It limped away from the fire, moving toward a cluster of rocks. Owen watched, curious. The creature disappeared behind the rocks for a moment, then returned dragging something in its mouth. It was another small frozen animal, already dead. The hatchling dropped it at Owen's feet and looked up at him expectantly. Owen stared. The creature had brought him food? A baby dragon, barely able to walk, had gone hunting and brought back prey to share. Something warm uncurled in Owen's chest, something that had nothing to do with the fire. "Thank you," he said quietly. The hatchling chirped and settled back down beside him. Owen spent the afternoon working on the emergency beacon. He cannibalized parts from other ship systems and managed to extend the antenna using pieces of the cargo bay. It was crude, but it might work. The hatchling stayed close, watching everything with curious eyes. By the time the sun started setting again, Owen had the beacon transmitting. It was weak and might not reach very far, but it was something. He returned to the fire where the hatchling waited. That night was warmer than the first. Owen had more fuel for the fire, and his shelter was better insulated. The hatchling curled up against him again, and Owen found himself absently stroking its scales. They were smooth and cool to the touch, like polished stone. He thought about his situation. Stranded on an unmapped moon with a baby dragon. If anyone had told him this would happen, he would have laughed. But sitting here with the small creature sleeping peacefully beside him, Owen felt something he had not expected. He was not alone anymore. And neither was the hatchling. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The fire crackled softly. The stars wheeled overhead. And somewhere in the distance, carried on the frozen wind, Owen heard a sound that made his blood run cold. It was a roar. Deep and powerful. And it was getting closer. Dawn broke with the sound of wings. Owen jerked awake to see 3 massive shapes circling overhead. They were enormous, each one easily the size of his cargo hauler. Their scales gleamed in the morning light, shifting between blue and silver and deep purple. Dragons, adult dragons. The hatchling beside him made excited chirping sounds and tried to stand. Its splinted leg made the movement awkward, but the little creature was clearly happy. It called out in high-pitched trills that echoed across the frozen landscape. The adult dragons descended. The ground shook when they landed, sending up clouds of snow and ice. Owen slowly got to his feet, his heart hammering. He had nothing that could stop creatures this size. The plasma cutter would be like a toothpick against their armored hides. The largest dragon stepped forward. Its scales were deep blue with silver streaks, and its eyes were the same gold as the hatchling's. This had to be the mother. She lowered her massive head and stared at Owen with an intelligence that made him want to look away. Her teeth were longer than his forearm. Owen raised his hand slowly, palms out, trying to show he meant no harm. The mother dragon's nostrils flared as she scented the air. Her gaze moved from Owen to the hatchling, taking in the bandaged leg and wrapped wing. The hatchling limped forward, chirping excitedly. It moved toward its mother, but kept looking back at Owen, as if torn between 2 points of safety. The mother dragon rumbled, a sound so deep Owen felt it in his chest. She examined her child carefully, sniffing the splint and the healing wing. Owen took a step backward, giving them space. It was the right thing to do. The hatchling belonged with its family. His job was done. He should feel relieved, but the hatchling turned and limped back to him. It pressed against Owen's leg and looked up at its mother, chirping in what sounded like explanation. The small creature then ran back to its mother, touched her leg, and returned to Owen again. Back and forth it went, as if trying to connect them somehow. The mother dragon watched this display with what Owen could have sworn was surprise. She turned her head and made a series of clicking and rumbling sounds to the other 2 dragons. They responded in kind, their voices creating a complex conversation Owen could not understand. Then the mother dragon did something unexpected. She lowered her head until it was level with Owen and closed her eyes briefly. Owen had seen that gesture before in videos about dragon culture. It was a sign of respect, something they rarely gave to other species. Owen bowed his head in return, unsure what else to do. When he looked up, the mother dragon was examining his camp. She studied the makeshift shelter, the fire, the remains of the cooked meat. Her gold eyes lingered on the medical kit and the careful way Owen had splinted her child's leg. One of the other dragons, slightly smaller with darker scales, spread its wings and took off. It returned minutes later carrying something large in its claws. The dragon dropped it near Owen's fire. It was a whole frozen animal, much larger than anything Owen could have caught himself. Fresh meat. A gift. The third dragon, with lighter scales that shimmered like ice, approached the wrecked cargo hauler. It sniffed at the damaged hull and made a thoughtful rumbling sound. Then it did something that made Owen's jaw drop. Using its claws with surprising delicacy, the dragon began pulling specific components from the wreckage. Circuit boards, power cells, antenna wire? Wait, you understand technology? Owen said aloud. The ice-scaled dragon glanced at him and continued working. Within minutes, it had gathered the exact parts needed to boost the emergency beacon's range. The mother dragon rumbled again. This time directed at Owen. The sound was different, more deliberate. Owen's hand went to his jacket pocket where he kept his portable translator. He had not thought to use it before, assuming dragon speech was too complex. But now he pulled it out and activated it. The device crackled and hummed, struggling with the dragon's vocalizations. Then words formed on the small screen, choppy but readable. You helped? Small one, why? Owen looked at the hatchling, then back at the mother dragon. It was cold, hurt, I could not just leave it to die? The translator worked both ways, converting his words into sounds he could barely hear. The mother dragon tilted her head, listening. Then she responded, most would leave. Or kill, dragons ... scales valuable. Owen felt sick. He had heard rumors about poachers targeting dragons, but he had never paid much attention. Now, looking at this family, the idea of hunting them seemed monstrous. Not by me, Owen said firmly. Never. The dragons exchanged glances. The mother dragon stepped closer, so close Owen could feel the heat radiating from her body despite the cold. She extended one massive claw and gently touched Owen's chest, right over his heart. The gesture was surprisingly gentle. The translator crackled. You have good fire inside. Like us, Owen did not know what to say. The mother dragon pulled back and turned to her child. She nuzzled the hatchling carefully, checking every inch of it. The small creature chirped and pressed against her, clearly happy to be reunited, but then the hatchling turned back to Owen and chirped insistently. The mother dragon made a series of complex sounds. The translator struggled, then displayed, small one once. Both families. You and us. I do not understand. Owen said that the mother dragon used her claw to draw shapes in the snow, stars, coordinates, a location. Then she looked at Owen meaningfully. The translator showed, come, when you are ready. Find us. You are... Pack now. Owen stared at the coordinates scratched in the ice. He was being invited into dragon territory. Something that had never happened before. As far as he knew, a new sound reached them. A high-pitched whine coming from above. Owen looked up and saw a ship descending through the atmosphere. Human markings on the hull. His distress beacon had finally worked. The rescue had arrived. The rescue ship touched down 50 meters from Owen's camp. Its engines blasted snow into the air, and the landing thrusters made the ground shake. Owen saw weapons ports opening on the hull, targeting systems locking onto the dragons. No, Owen shouted, waving his arms. Hold fire. They are not hostile. The ship's main hatch opened. 6 crew members emerged in combat suits, rifles raised. Their leader, a woman with captain's insignia, approached cautiously. Her weapon stayed pointed at the mother dragon. Owen Fletcher? The captain called out. Step away from the creatures, slowly. Captain, you do not understand, Owen said, staying where he was. They are not a threat. They saved me. The hatchling chirped nervously and pressed against Owen's leg. The mother dragon growled, a sound that made everyone tense. The other 2 dragons moved protectively closer. That is an order, Fletcher, the captain said sharply. Those things are dangerous. We have reports of dragon attacks in this sector. Because someone is attacking them first, Owen shot back. He could see the situation spiraling. The rescue team was scared. The dragons were getting defensive. One wrong move and people would die. Owen took a breath and held up both hands. Captain, look at my camp. Look at what happened here. I crashed 3 days ago. I should be dead, but I am alive because this family helped me. Helped you? The captain's voice was skeptical. Dragons do not help humans. This one did. Owen gestured to the hatchling. I found her dying from the cold. I kept her alive. When her family came looking, they did not attack me. They thanked me. One of the crew members lowered his rifle slightly. Captain, look at those coordinates in the snow. And those ship components by the wreck. Someone organized those. The captain's eyes narrowed. She studied the scene more carefully. The neat pile of parts. The gifted meat. The way the hatchling stood between Owen and the dragons, comfortable with both. Access Fletcher's ship logs, the captain ordered. I want to see everything that happened here. While her crew worked, Owen activated his translator again. He turned to the mother dragon. These are my people. They came to rescue me. Please do not attack. Let me show them you mean no peace. The translator converted his words. The mother dragon rumbled thoughtfully. Then she deliberately laid down on the snow, making herself less threatening. The other two dragons followed her lead. It was a gesture of peace, though Owen knew they could attack in seconds if they chose. The captain received the data from Owen's ship logs. She pulled up a holographic display and watched the recordings. Owen saw her expression change as she viewed him saving the hatchling, caring for it, the family's arrival. Minutes passed in tense silence. Finally, the captain lowered her weapon. Stand down, she ordered her team. Keep alert, but do not aim at them. She walked closer to Owen, though she kept a careful distance from the dragons. Your logs show an impossible story, Fletcher. First contact with dragons has never gone peacefully. Maybe because we never tried peace, Owen said. Captain, these beings are intelligent. They have language, culture, families. That hatchling brought me food when I was hungry. The mother showed me respect. They are not mindless beasts. The captain looked at the dragons, really looked at them. Owen could see her military training warring with what her eyes were telling her. We have standing orders about dragons, she said quietly. They are classified as dangerous. There is a bounty on their scales. That is wrong, Owen said flatly. You know it is wrong? The hatchling chirped and took a hesitant step toward the rescue team. The crew members tensed, but the small dragon just tilted its head curiously. It made a sound almost like a purr. One of the younger crew members, barely out of training, knelt down slowly. It is just a baby, she said softly. Look at its eyes. It is scared but curious. Like a child? The hatchling limped closer on its splinted leg. The young crew member extended a gloved hand carefully. The hatchling sniffed it, then chirped happily. Before anyone could stop her, the crew member gently touched the hatchling's scales. Syrah, get back, the captain warned, but her voice lacked conviction. Captain, it is friendly, Syrah said. She looked at the hatchling with wonder. I can feel it. This creature is not evil or dangerous. It is just young and scared and brave. The mother dragon made a soft sound. The translator showed, Your young one, wise, sees truth. The captain stared at the translated words on Owen's device. Her worldview was cracking. Owen could see it happening. Years of training said dragons were threats, but the evidence before her eyes said something different. Captain, Owen said carefully, what if everything we have been told is wrong? What if the reason dragons avoid us is because we hunt them? This family lost hatchlings to poachers. They have every reason to hate humans. But they did not hate me. They accepted me when I showed them kindness. Another crew member spoke up. Ma'am, if dragons are really this intelligent, hunting them would be murder, not pest control. The captain was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something Owen did not expect. She walked past him, straight toward the mother dragon. Her team gasped, but she kept walking until she stood directly in front of the massive creature. The mother dragon lifted her head and looked down at the captain. Two apex predators facing each other. The captain removed her helmet, showing her face. Then she bowed, the same gesture the mother dragon had given Owen. The mother dragon's eyes widened. She returned the bow. I think, the captain said slowly, that we need to completely rethink our policies. Fletcher, how do you feel about making history? Owen looked at the dragons, then at his rescuers, then at the hatchling happily playing with Syrah. I think history has already been made. Now we just need to build on it. 6 months had changed everything. Owen stood on the observation deck of Border Station 7, watching ships come and go. Human vessels and dragon flights moved through space together now, something that would have been impossible half a year ago. His story had spread across human networks like wildfire. The recordings from that frozen moon had been viewed billions of times. Some people called him a hero, others called him a fool. But the galaxy was talking about dragons differently now, and that mattered. The door opened behind him. Captain Walsh entered, no longer in combat gear. She wore a diplomatic uniform now, her new role as human ambassador to dragon clans. They are here, she said. Ready? Owen nodded. Today was important. The first official meeting between human governments and dragon clan leaders. Months of careful communication had led to this moment. Neutral territory. No weapons. Just talking. They walked to the main conference hall together. It was built specially for this meeting, with high ceilings and reinforced floors to support dragon weight. Human diplomats filled one side of the massive room. The other side stood empty, waiting. Then they arrived. 5 adult dragons descended from the sky, their wings catching sunlight like stained glass. They landed gracefully on the station's external platform. The mother dragon was there, the one Owen had met. She had brought her family and representatives from other clans. Owen watched through the transparent wall as the dragons entered through the specially built entrance. The hatchling came with them, though it was not so small anymore. 6 months of growth had made it the size of a large dog. It moved with more confidence now, though it still had a slight limp from the old injury. When the hatchling saw Owen, it made happy, chirping sounds and bounded over. The young dragon pressed its head against Owen's chest, purring like thunder. Owen laughed and scratched behind its ear ridges. Someone missed you, Walsh said with a smile. The mother dragon approached, moving with regal grace. She had learned some human words over the past months, though she still preferred the translator. Owen Fletcher. You look well. So do you, Owen replied. Thank you for coming. I know this was not easy. No, the mother dragon agreed. Many of my kind fear humans. Fear your weapons, fear your greed. But you showed different path. Others willing to try. The formal meeting began. Human diplomats presented proposals. Protected zones where dragons could nest safely. Laws against poaching and scale trade. Technology sharing agreements. The dragons listened carefully, asking sharp questions through translators. What surprised the humans was what the dragons offered in return. They knew star paths through unmapped space. They had knowledge of mineral deposits on uninhabited worlds. They understood complex mathematics that human scientists struggled with. Dragons were not primitive. They were simply different. A human scientist stood up. I have studied your biology from the samples you provided. Your scales have unique properties, but we would never ask you to harm yourselves for our research. An older dragon with scales like burnished gold responded. We shed scales naturally. Like your hair, we can provide what falls freely. But killing for scales? That ends now. Agreed, said the human diplomat leading the talks. Any human caught hunting dragons will face severe punishment. We have already arrested 3 poaching operations. The gold dragon dipped his head. Justice, good, but punishment not enough. Must change minds. Must teach young ones to see each other truly. That was when Syrah stood up. She had been working on a special project. We propose educational exchanges. Young dragons and young humans learning together, understanding each other from early age. The dragons conferred among themselves in their complex language. Finally, the mother dragon spoke. Bold idea, dangerous, but necessary, we accept. Some young ones will join your schools. Some human young ones will learn with us. The room erupted in excited conversation. This was more than anyone had hoped for. Real integration. Real partnership. It would take years, maybe generations, but the foundation was being laid. During the break, Owen walked outside to the observation platform. The hatchling followed him, moving smoothly despite its old injury. They stood together, looking at the stars. "You have grown so much," Owen said quietly. The young dragon chirped and leaned against him. Even though it was bigger now, it still sought comfort from him the same way it had on that frozen moon. The mother dragon joined them. "My child has name now," she said, in dragon tongue, but also wants human name. "Name you give?" Owen looked at the young dragon. "On that first night, everything was cold, but having you there made it warmer. You were like finding warmth in the frost." "What about Frost? Is that okay?" The young dragon, Frost, made an approving sound. The mother dragon touched Owen's shoulder gently with one claw. "Good name. Name of survival? Of friendship. Frost will remember always." A message came through on Owen's communicator. More dragon families wanted to make contact. 3 new clan leaders had sent requests. The movement was growing faster than anyone expected. Walsh found him later. "Fletcher, we need you to train more liaisons. People who understand dragon culture. People they trust." "I'm just a cargo pilot," Owen protested. "You were a cargo pilot," Walsh corrected. "Now you are something more. The bridge between species. We need dozens like you. Hundreds eventually." Owen looked at Frost, at the mother dragon, at the humans and dragons beginning to work together inside. "Yeah," he said. "Okay, I will do it." That night, Owen recorded a message for public broadcast. 6 months ago, I was dying on a frozen moon. A creature I had been taught to fear became my salvation. We survived together because we chose compassion over fear. That choice is available to all of us every day. We can choose to see others as enemies, or we can choose to see them as potential friends. The galaxy is watching what we do next. Let's show them something worth seeing. The message went viral within hours. And across the stars, more voices began calling for peace. The distress signal came through during dinner. Owen was eating with Frost and a group of new liaisons when the emergency alert screamed across all channels. Dragon nest under attack. Poachers with military-grade weapons. Multiple casualties. Owen was moving before anyone else reacted. "Get Captain Walsh, full diplomatic security team, and someone find Frost's mother." The young dragon was already at his side, scales bristling with anger. Frost had grown considerably in the past year. Now the size of a small shuttle, the dragon could fly long distances and had learned to use the natural weapons all dragons possessed. But more importantly, Frost understood both human and dragon ways of thinking. They assembled quickly. 5 human ships and 7 adult dragons, including Frost's mother. The flight to the attack nest took 2 hours at maximum speed. Owen spent the time reviewing tactical data and trying not to imagine what they would find. The nest was on a remote moon with volcanic activity that kept it warm. Perfect for dragon eggs. The poachers had known exactly when to strike, right after the eggs hatched. That meant they had inside information. Someone had betrayed the dragon's trust. They arrived to find chaos. The poachers had already fled, but they had left behind automated defense drones and trap fields. 3 young dragons lay injured near the nest entrance. An elder dragon, too old to fight effectively, was trying to protect them despite wounds bleeding across her silvered scales. "Medical team, go," Owen ordered. Human medics rushed forward with supplies while dragons cleared a safe path through the mines. Frost flew straight to the injured young ones, calling out in the complex dragon language. The elder dragon recognized Frost and the mother dragon. Relief showed in her ancient eyes. Owen worked alongside the medical team. Human knowledge of dragon biology had improved dramatically over the past year. They stabilized the wounded, sealed the worst injuries, administered pain relief. But one of the young dragons was in critical condition. Its breathing was shallow, and its scales had turned gray. "I need a portable scanner," Owen called. A medic tossed him the device. He ran it over the young dragon and felt his stomach drop. Internal bleeding, severe. The creature needed surgery, But they were hours from a proper facility. Frost's mother saw Owen's expression. She made a sound of grief. Too far? Too hurt? Maybe not, Owen said. He activated his communicator. Walsh, I need emergency authorization to use the experimental stasis pod. Right now? That has never been tested on dragons, Walsh responded. Then we test it now or this kid dies. There was a pause. Authorization granted. God help us all. They loaded the injured young dragon into the stasis pod from one of the human ships. The technology was meant for human trauma cases, but the principles should work for any biological life. The pod sealed and the dragon's vital signs stabilized. Not healing, but not dying either. They had time now. While the medical team worked, Owen studied the abandoned poacher equipment. Professional grade. Military encryption. This was not some random criminal group. This was organized and well-funded. Captain, one of the security team called. You need to see this. Owen joined her at a damaged computer terminal the poachers had left behind. She had managed to crack its basic security. What Owen saw on the screen made his blood boil. Names, locations, schedules, a complete database of dragon nests across 3 sectors. And at the bottom, the name of their source. A human diplomat who had been part of the cultural exchange program. Someone Owen had trained personally. We have a traitor, Owen said quietly. Someone used our peace efforts to target dragons. Frost growled, understanding through the translator. The young dragon's eyes blazed with betrayal and rage. Easy, Owen said, putting a hand on Frost's scaled shoulder. We handle this the right way. Through law. Through justice. Not revenge. The flight back was somber. They had saved 3 lives, but the attack had shattered something fragile, trust. When they arrived at Border Station 7, Owen went straight to Walsh. I want him arrested, Owen said, showing her the evidence. Full charges. Attempted genocide, conspiracy, betrayal of diplomatic immunity, everything. Walsh looked at the data and her face hardened. Consider it done. But Owen, this will set things back. There will be people who say we cannot trust the Alliance. Then we prove them wrong, Owen said. We show everyone that when someone betrays the peace, we hold them accountable. That is how you build real trust. The trial was public and swift. The traitor tried to justify his actions, claiming dragons were too dangerous to integrate. The evidence buried him. He was sentenced to life in prison, and the human government issued a formal apology to all dragon clans, but the real healing came from something else. The young dragon Owen had survived the surgery. When it woke up, surrounded by both human doctors and its dragon family, it did something unexpected. It reached out with one small claw and touched the hand of the surgeon, who had saved its life. The image went across every network. A dragon choosing to trust a human even after humans had tried to kill it. The young one's name was Ash, and Ash became the symbol of forgiveness and hope. 2 years after Owen crashed on that frozen moon, he stood in the same spot where his ship had gone down. They had built a monument here. A sculpture of a human and a dragon sitting by a fire together. Frost stood beside him, now fully grown and magnificent. Remember this? Owen asked, gesturing at the frozen landscape. You were so small. So cold, Frost rumbled with affection. Remember you shared warmth. Shared food. Chose life over fear. We both did, Owen said, dot around them. A group of young humans and young dragons played together in the snow, part of the new generation being raised to see each other as equals. They built snow shelters and practiced survival skills, learning from both species' traditions. The twin suns set on the horizon, just as they had that first night. But this time, there were dozens of fires burning across the landscape, each one surrounded by humans and dragons together, sharing stories and laughter. You know what is funny? Owen said, I used to think I was alone that night. But I was not. You were there. And that made all the difference. Frost lowered its massive head and pressed it gently against Owen. Never alone? Pack is forever. Owen smiled and looked at the monument, at the playing children, at the fires burning warm against the cold. One act of kindness. One choice to help instead of harm. That was all it had taken to change everything. The galaxy was watching. And what they saw was hope?